Good morning. How you all doing? Should I say it or not? I'm going to say it politically incorrect. Happy Mother's Day. I heard Biden tell it at the White House with the LBGTQ4Hs, ABC, CDFI, whatever it is. Happy Birthing Person Day. Yeah, that's why they got to say it in the military now. Not mother, it's birthing person. I was thinking about that. My birthing person told my non-birthing person to go to the store and get some bread. How sad. How sad. But you're not, because you're a mama. And you're an important person. And I think sometimes you probably don't realize just how important. The older I get, the more I understand the importance of mama. The old saying that the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Yeah, and that's hitting the nail on the head. I don't know how else to say it. Year after year after year, I become more convinced of that particular truth. It's amazing, absolutely amazing, the power, the effect, the influence of a mother. Sometimes for bad, but in your case, I trust for good, and that is something we hold on to. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. That's God's gift to mother is a baby. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it at 3 o'clock in the morning, but it's a gift. Sometimes it takes getting past those first hard years, especially the first child, because it can be scary. You start wondering, am I ever going to get to sleep again? And you walk around like a zombie through the day. But you learn the joy of motherhood, the value of being a mother. It just blows my mind how important that is. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Sometimes that passage is misunderstood, and it really doesn't have to be. Young's literal translation says, give instruction to a youth about his way. Now, that's a literal translation, word for word exactly. Train a child about his way. That's not necessarily the same meaning as the way he should go. Some, when it talks about the way he should go, that is the way of God. Of course, that's implied, absolutely. But that's not all that's implied by that statement. It's much broader than that and encompasses much more. The Hebrew text says, train up a child in the way of his going. It has to do with the way, literally, the way a child bends. Train up a child according to that particular child. You tell them about truth and error, but you teach them more than that. You tell them about financing. You teach them how to write a check. Teach them how to wash the dishes. Go hunting. There's so many things that they're taught in addition to the way of God. But it all goes together because the whole person's involved. Flesh and spirit both. So you have to think of a responsibility as more encompassing than just about teaching them the gospel, but so much more goes with it in making a child whole. Kaiser wrote, this indicates that wise parents will not only train their children in divine truth, but also consistent with each child's temperament, personality, etc. Children are different. Some children you speak to, and you got to speak gently. You can't be too aggressive because it terrifies them. And another child, you almost got to pistol their head for you can get them to listen. They're different, daylight and dark sometimes. We're being told to train a child according to that child's personality. Deal with them differently. You can't deal with all children the same. You got to use different talents for different children. Brother Wayne Jackson wrote, "The passage seems to be saying that when godly parents determine that they will rear their children for service to God, not as just a mere appendage of life, but in passionate service. When they are wise enough to do that training in harmony with the child's unique personality, and every parent knows that more than one child acknowledges sibling rivalry, individuality rather, that it generally will prove to be the case that the child will remain faithful to his training. If we teach our children, and mothers are the primary teachers, we know it. If we teach our children according to their personality, adaptability, etc., then the likelihood of our raising the kind of a child we would like to see become an adult is going to increase exponentially. We'll raise what we hope for and what we pray for. Now, the father's got to help, no doubt about it. I'll catch him on Father's Day. But for today, the mother is so important. I know it from my own family. There was a role I played, and I was the bad guy most of the time. I was the one that laid down different kind of rules, but BR had a whole lot more to do with helping my children develop than I did. And I think she did a pretty good job. But she worked hard at it, and that's what it takes, a lot of work. I think, in my opinion, the most important job on earth is being a mother. That's just how I feel about it. The Jesuit says, "Give me your child till he is 12, and I care not who has charge of him afterwards." In other words, he'll be faithful to his calling from then on out. When I was a kid, I went to a Catholic church. They told us that have a child until they were 6, and they would be a Catholic for life. I've dealt with a lot of Catholics in my lifetime, and one thing I've learned through the years, it's very challenging to try to convert a Catholic. They are determined to die a Catholic. And that's the way they feel about it. Does this mean a properly trained child will never go wrong? And this sometimes I think is where we get our feelings hurt. If our child doesn't go the way we hope they will, does that mean we've been a failure? I've heard some people say it does. That if you train a child properly, that the child will grow up to be a godly child. And if they don't grow up to be a godly child, it's because you did something wrong. You know, that's a lot of weight to lay on someone, and it's not even true. So you can erase that thought immediately. It could be the problem, but not necessarily the problem. But God said when he is old, he will not depart from it. If you do your job rightly, the child will turn out to be a godly adult. Well, is that a pet rule? He will not depart from it. The book of Proverbs is unique. It's different in its own way. It's not a book where you start at the beginning and read to the end. The book of Proverbs is a collection of wise sayings. But wise sayings doesn't necessarily mean desired results. There are no guarantees. Wisdom is wisdom. And if followed, it probably will produce fruit. But that's not guaranteed. Sometimes you can do your very, very, very best, and things don't go the way you wish they would have. Is it our fault or not? Isaiah chapter 1, verse 2. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. Keep in mind, this is Jehovah speaking. He's saying, I have nourished and brought up children. I've trained them well. And they rebelled against me. They weren't faithful to me. They didn't love me. Well, they wouldn't even listen to me. We're told, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. God did the very best he could do in training Israel to be a strong, productive adult in this world. And it didn't work out that way. Are we to think that he expects that our children must turn out that way? If he couldn't raise productive children, would he obligate us to? It's not the end result that you and I are judged by. It's the effort we put forth. Am I trying to be the best mother I can be, or the best father I can be? Do I love my children more than I love myself? And most do. That's why a mother gets up at 2 o'clock in the morning. She don't want to. She wants to lay in the bed and sleep, but that baby won't stop crying. And somebody's going to have to do something. And most of the time, the old man laying over, he just grunts. So mama usually is the one that gets up, and she'll go take care of that baby. Why? It's because of love. Even when daddy does it, it's because of love. We do things we don't want to do sometimes because we love someone. We're put out by love. We sacrifice because of love. And I don't know of any person that puts out more and greater love than a mother does. Now, I'm not trying to impress ladies here. I'm just telling you the truth. I seen it from my mama, and I saw it from BR. And from what I've seen, that's just the way it goes. And it's something you should be proud of. Very, very proud of. But you've got to remember, sometimes things go south, even though we've tried our very, very best. I remember one time, and I don't never forget it. It's too late now. I remember Farland up here on a Sunday night talking, preaching, and he got to talking about his mama. Now Farland was pretty old at this time, and he was talking about being sick and in the bed at night, and his mama coming in there and washing him down, and I don't know what else she did, give him something to drink. She sat there and she rubbed his head and did everything she could to comfort him and calm him. And while he was telling us about what all his mama did for him, Farland, he always gets choked up. He'd get choked up. He'd start spitting across the room. It was breaking his heart, that memory. And I sat there watching Farland, an older man, much older than me at the time. And I was so moved by his passion for his mother that my eyes started watering up. I think all of us probably did. I'll never forget that as long as I live. No matter how old that son got, he would never forget the love he experienced from his mother. Now that's power. That is power. Few things will stick in a person's mind that vividly, that long. I mean, you're talking about 80 years. And he could still hold on to it just as clear as the day it happened. The memory of mother, I suppose, went with him to his grave. I hope it did anyway. You got so much power, Mama. So much power. So much responsibility. And it all lies within your heart. And I hope you can appreciate that. Proverbs sets forth general truths, not ironclad rules. That's the way the Proverbs are. You know, it tells you to do something. Well, you know, you do it, but the result may not be what you hope for. It may be something different. These are words of wisdom. This way it will work best, but there's not a guarantee. It just may not go that way. In Proverbs 16 and verse 7, when man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. You know that's true. You know, one thing I've noticed about management in places I've worked is that managers, a lot of times, they like to have devout people taking care of business. And it just stands to reason. The person's qualified. You got two people and they're both qualified. One's a devout person. He does everything in his power not to lie, cheat, or deceive. Another person, he's not devout. I mean, he's very qualified for the job, but he's been known to cheat or lie or deceive his wife or whatever the case may be. And you're the supervisor or the guy that owns the business, and you've got to choose somebody to take care of your money. Who are you going to choose? Who are you going to choose? The guy you don't have to worry about or the guy you're not sure about? There's something about devout people, faithful people. You may not even agree with them, but they're devout, they're faithful. They stick to it. And to have that person taking care of your business, that's a pretty good thing. Because people like that tend to look after your business as much as you do. So it is the case that in most cases, when a man's ways please the Lord, people are generally going to appreciate that person. Neighbors will, because you come and help when they need a little help. Or you let them borrow something when they need to borrow something. Or you'll have a kind word for them instead of a sour note. And on the list goes. As a rule, people generally like Christian people who are faithful. So if you tend to the Lord's business, you're going to find yourself having a lot of friends. Now, is that always the truth? Is that always the case? Well, let me ask you this. Who tended to the Father's business better than anyone ever did? You know the answer. It's Jesus. He walked more righteously than any human being ever walked. But they crucified the man. Theoretically, in general application, most of the time, that's the way it turns out. But not always, not always. There's some people that are so evil They're so mean inside, so cantankerous. They hate so much that they don't befriend anything, but they're the enemy of all things. So that's the way the Proverbs go. You got to understand that. My son, hear the instruction of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother. Solomon, throughout the Proverbs, makes a lot of declarations about training children. Proverbs 19 and 18. I'm going to take this from the English Standard Version because the wording is a little easier to understand, and we won't have to take time to explain it. Discipline your son, for there is hope. That's why you discipline your child, because there is hope. If the child's misbehaving, there is hope that he may behave. Therefore, discipline him when required. Discipline that child. Today, it's not that way. Today, it's different. Today, people are smarter than they used to be. Today, we got all kinds of things the psychologists tell us to do because they're smart and we're not. And many people, even Christian people, unfortunately, tend to listen to the smart people instead of God. Do not set your heart on putting him to death. There's hope. Discipline him. Proverbs 22:15. Folly is bound up in the heart of a child. That's pretty much the case, isn't it? You ever see a child didn't try to push the boundaries? Of course they do. All kids do that. You got to see what you can get away with. What would you expect anything different? Children are going to push the boundaries because they got to find out exactly how far they can go. Even little bitty people, as small as they are, they've got enough sense to know how to push the boundary. They can push you to the end of your rope, can't they? Folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline, that'll drive it from him. That's a figurative rod. That's not a figurative rod, that's a rod. The rod of discipline will drive that folly right out of that child. Don't do it in public, though, because you go to jail. Don't tell anybody. They'll come and take baby away from you. Got to do it in private these days. But you got to do it. Why? Because this is God talking. The rod of discipline will drive it from the child. In most cases, that's the way it works. Proverbs 23:13-14. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. He's not going to die. I seen on TV one time where they caned somebody over in another country somewhere. And he deserved caning. I don't remember what it was he did, but he ought to have been caned. Something ought to have been done with him. And they just had a cow over here like that was the worst thing. Why, my daddy did more with his belt than they did with that cane. And here I am. And I even like him. I wept when he died. And I don't go around killing people or beating them up. I hardly ever hit BR. You imagine that. I got a gun in my house. I'm not hitting her. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike them, they will not die. If you strike him with a rod, you will save his soul from Sheol. That child's eternal destination is in your hands. How far would you go to protect your child from hell? Sometimes it takes a rod. Not very often, but sometimes it does. The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself, well, he's going to make you ashamed. You'll see him on the TV news in the back of the highway patrol car. Discipline your son, and he will give you rest. He will give delight to your heart. God said children need correction. And that is something that occurs in a variety of different ways. I can count on one hand the times I spanked both of my kids put together. They knew when I told them to do something, they were supposed to do it. Chris said one time one of the reasons he did what I wanted him to do is because he didn't want to hurt my feelings. He had enough respect for me that he didn't want to disappoint me. He didn't want to let me down. He wanted to do what he was expected to do, and he did it. Amanda, I don't know, I think she does. Amanda did it, just took a little longer. She's got a lot of BR in her. A little bit slower, but she got there. And that's my little baby now, see? Never spanked her a couple of times, I guess. But I could talk to them then. I could get their attention then. I didn't hurt them when I spanked them. Just the fact that I wasn't happy, that was enough to shake their cage pretty good. Now, through the years, you got to do stuff, you know. Usually discipline, like, what do they call grounding people. Taking away the car for a while. I don't even think I ever did that. I can't remember what I did. It wasn't much. I had good kids. I was a very fortunate man. BR did a great job. But the thing is, sometimes you got to do it. Well, I don't want to do it. I know that. I don't want to do it either. It's awful. It's awful to spank your child. It makes your heart, golly, it just kills me to do it. I hate to do stuff like that. I hate to get on to them. I never spanked a grandchild. I don't even get on to them. It's not my job. I'm just kidding. It is my job. But I hate it as much as anybody hates it. But you know what I hate more than anything? The prospect of their losing their soul. Boy, that's one I just can't live with. I can't do it. I can't sit by and watch that happen. I ain't going to sit by and watch it happen. If they want to arrest me at Kroger's and take me off to jail, they'll have to do it. Because I'm not going to watch my family fail. Not without a fight. Dr. Laura Schlesinger, in her book she wrote, Stupid Things Parents Do to Mess Up Their Kids. I don't know how much you know this woman, but if you're on an entertaining book, she writes them. Dr. Laura Schlesinger. A major source of today's parenting problem is the psychologizing of our culture. In Grandma and Grandpa's time, misbehavior was viewed as a moral issue of right and wrong. There used to be right and wrong. Today, there's only shades of gray. But there used to be. The old solution was punishment. The goal of punishment was to teach accountability, self-control, the consequences of wrong choices, thinking before acting, and the important fact that they are obligated to respect the rules of authority. That's pretty much true. Pretty much true. Then came the shrinks. That's the smart people. The psychology community suggested that bad behavior is either the result of some psychological problem, like low self-esteem. That's a favorite. Or some biological problem, brain chemistry, food allergies, so popular today. Pop a pill, and you'll feel good. I took a lot of psychology classes when I was in school. Some of it I think was beneficial. A whole lot of it was just nonsense. Absolute nonsense. got a psychology book written by a human being. You got a psychology book written by Jesus Christ. Which one are you going to follow? Are you going to listen to Dr. So-and-so? Or are you going to listen to Dr. Jesus? What are you going to do? You know, a lot of people, even Christian people, they're listening to Dr. So-and-so over Jesus. I know an elder's wife that did that. I wish she hadn't done it. We talked about it. Things didn't go well for her and her children. I don't know. Maybe it had to be that way. I don't know. But I do know that she followed a system other than the Lord's system. And it turned out not so good. My thing quit working. There it goes. Ken Wilson writes about corporal punishment in his book, The Christian Home by God's Design. It strikes me as outright foolishness for so-called parenting experts to say that time-honored and biblically mandated corporal punishment is child abuse. That's what they call it. That's why they arrest you. Child abuse. You spank a little child on their bottom, whoa, that's child abuse. You're going to jail. Don't do it in public. I'm serious. They'll arrest you, they'll take the baby away from you, and you'll have to go to court to get it back. It's happened to a lot of people. It happens around here. God never condoned child abuse. That's contrary to the divine will. But on the other hand, he never condoned parental permissiveness either. Our responsibility is to train the child. That's the objective. And until we meet the objective, we're failing the child. And too many people do that today. It's not good. These children's lives are at stake. We can't give less than our very best. Brother Wilson offers the following principles. I suggest these are wise. Non-abusive spanking is most effective when it is administered as a last resort. Don't want to spank? Don't. Don't do it until you find your back up against the wall. Never resort to corporal punishment until your back's up against the wall. And then you got to do something. Number 2, it is to be administered with self-control. I've always been explosive. I was one of those kind of people that had to count. They say count to 10. I counted a lot higher than 10. Child would go to the bedroom and we wait and wait and wait until I got my composure back because I was so upset. Never a good time. That's not even a good time to make decisions that involve your children. You got to get your composure back. Number 3, it's reserved for willful acts of disobedience. Friend, sometimes children mess up. They just mess up. Why'd you do that? I don't know. You know what? They might not know. Sometimes we do. I do that sometimes. Why do you do that? I don't know. I just did it. Well, you know it's not right. I know it's not right. But I did it. I don't understand why I do some things. But sometimes we do. Sometimes, I remember one time I was playing dodgeball in school up in Michigan. And the boys, we had to throw the ball at a girl. We had to throw it with our left hand or the opposite hand that we use. Well, I got the ball one day. I was all lathered up playing like a demon. And I got the ball, and boy, I hauled back with my right hand, and I threw it, and I hit a girl. That gym teacher, he took me in. He showed me the Board of Education. He said, bend over. From Michigan, you know what the Board of Education is. It's something you don't want to know. Bend over. I bent over, boy, and I was holding my breath. He drew back with that thing, and he come up there, and he just tatted me with it. I said, how come you didn't spank me? He said, I know you didn't mean to do it. But I had to make everybody else think. He said, scream. Boy, I hollered at the top of my voice. I wanted to make him happy. Sometimes children do things. I didn't mean to do it. It's an accident. You got to use your gray matter. It is to be administered in private. Don't do it out in front of everybody. Don't humiliate your own child. Don't smack them in the face. Don't tell them they're stupid. Don't tell them they do everything wrong. Don't humiliate them in front of anyone. Go off privately. Deal with the issue. We owe our children that much. It is always followed by love and acceptance, and we have to do that too. Always, always, always finish the situation with a hug and a kiss and a I love you forever and ever. Amen. What a responsibility you have. I pray all the time that God will bless you, that you'll be successful. We got so many babies here, and it's so wonderful. If you're not a Christian, we are to believe that Jesus is God's Son. Try to stop sinning best we can. Walk with God after we've been baptized into water and become a part of his family. As Christians, sometimes we mess up. Sometimes we mess up a lot. Sometimes when we mess up and we sin, other people know that we've sinned. They also need to know that we've repented. If somebody knows that you've sinned, you need to make sure they know that you've repented so they won't think you're a hypocrite.